What is the worst workplace issue you can think of? Ooh, that's a tough one. If you had to pause and go, it's because you obviously have a few. Whenever you hear about workplace issues, there's always something that's going to pop in your head, right? For me, when I think of workplace issues, I don't think about stuff like dealing with people. I think of more of processes. Well, it's not fair. Let me backtrack. It involves people, but it's the processes that's there what makes it difficult. Because oftentimes people will rely on that process to save their ass or to cover it. Okay? As you all know, those new to the channel, hi, I'm Corey Rennie. I'm the unemployable counselor. That's my nom de plume. And I do a lot of stuff about workplace history, all kinds of stuff because I'm an eccentric kind of cat. But I'm thinking a lot about this because there's a lot of good people out there that don't have jobs or are trying to find jobs. And there's a lot of people out there that probably don't deserve the jobs that they have, but they're there for whatever reason. They show up all the time. They kiss ass. I don't know. List goes on. And I'm not besmirching or begrudging anyone that does whatever they can to keep a job, except when it's trading your integrity for the mighty dollar. And people can disagree with me, and if you do, put it in the comments. What I'm looking at is that I think that not everyone has a price. And that's what I think is one of the biggest workplace issues in the world, is that people will trade their morals and their values to get something out of it. I ran into an old friend of mine at a grocery store a couple days ago, and he said a couple of things that kind of made me go, I'm not going to go into our conversations because I don't talk about that kind of stuff, but what I will talk about is how people find out usually the hard way that they're just a number. And people that can achieve a high level in the workplace or get higher up the ladder are content with being the devil's advocate, the self-described, keeper of information, right? Basically, or they're everybody's friend except when it matters, if that makes sense. What I'm saying is this, is that I mentioned in an earlier video that when you're in the workplace, the only person you should be concerned with is you. And this does fall into that category, but I do think that one's integrity counts. And it doesn't matter what you say you're going to do. If you do something different, then what kind of person are you? You know what I mean? It's like people who have to tell stories, right? Or they have to be in the right, or they have to be in the know, and they're willing to share that information with anyone who asks because they want to be perceived as a wise person, the person who knows everything at the place, even though they don't. And a lot of times, and again, this goes into another video I had about responsibility versus authority. People might have some responsibility, but they don't have authority, or people might make calls that they don't have the authority to make just to do it so they can feel like they do and have other people think that they do. Yeah, I hear you. Mando, I don't know if you can hear Mando. He doesn't like that either. Come here, boy. Right? Because what that is you're hiding behind somebody else. And you're using that as a bit of a shield because, I don't have that say. But you're doing it hiding behind someone else who might not even know that you're doing it. Then when shit hits the fan, it's like, wait a minute. This guy is like, wait. Who said this? Right? And then this guy's like, I don't know. No, that's not the case. I'm all for people covering their own ass, but you can do it in an honorable way. And that's by being truthful and honest, right? That's the biggest workplace issues I see. And again, I've done A lot of my stuff kind of ties in similar themes when it comes to workplaces. Truth, honesty, integrity, group dynamics is something I touch a little bit on, and that's like ally building and, trying to stack the deck because there's probably a power play looming, or you think there's going to be a power play looming. So you want to make sure you're on the right side of history and whatever. And I guess history is written by the winners, but at the same time, you have to know what you're doing to be that person. Now, I'm not saying I know what I'm doing. I messed up lots in the workplaces. There's lots of things I wish I could have done differently. There's lots of things I wish that I should have said or did in the moment, but that's neither here nor there. It's in the past. But what you can do is you can learn from it. And, if you back people, they don't back you. That's slings and arrows, man. CM Punk had a really good quote where it's like, I had to take some time away, and it took me a few years to pull the arrows out. Then it took me a few years to pull the rest out. But I still carry those around with me because I'm going to make the people that threw those arrows choke on them, right? And I think that's kind of the way it is. Nothing's ever over. You can leave a job, you can get fired from a job, you can get sick on a job, whatever. Doesn't matter. End of the day, you're just a number. It doesn't matter what you put into that pool. You're never going to be able to take out what you put in. And the expectation is always going to be that you keep putting more in despite the personal cost because you're working for something bigger. That's the carrot. And when I look at workplace issues, what are you working for? Exactly. Right? You're working to make money. You want to make as much money as humanly possible. Right? And it goes back to, it's like, oh, but I'm here for a higher purpose. Great. Then you'll volunteer to come in then and work some shifts for free. No. Legally, we can't do that. And they wouldn't do that anyway, even if they could, because they still need to live. You see what I mean? Money is always the line for people. Financial compensation. For some people, it might be respect. Doesn't matter how well you treat people. That's always going to happen. Especially if you have a history of maybe, I don't know, illness or whatever, right? Those sorts of things will always be there ready to be brought out and thrown back at you because you're just a number. I mean, I know people that have gotten close to retirement and had to leave jobs because, well, it's not official, but you're a little too old. Well, you've had too many sick days, right? They're already lining up the next person to come in and take over. Okay. So to go back to the very, very first literal 15 seconds of this, no doubt entertaining conversation is, okay, there's process and there's people. Often people will hide behind a process because either, number one, that's the way it's always been, and they'll say that. We've always done it this way. Why would you want this to change? Right? It's always happened. Number two, nobody knows the right way to do it because they were trained by people that said, this is the way it's always been. It's always been this way. Just the way it is. And then there's number three, is that they just don't give a shit and they don't want that to change because they're benefiting from it. Right? That's the trifecta, I think, of what prevents businesses and people and organizations from moving forward, because what they're doing has always worked for this amount of time. Why would we need to modernize the service when I'm getting my needs met, even though the rest of you probably aren't? See what I'm getting at? Do I think that's something that can change? Probably not, because people got to want it to change. Now, usually when stuff gets changed, it's because they're forced. And usually there's people that take the hit and they're out. But hopefully that sparks enough of a change of where people were at before that it won't go that way again because it's embarrassing for the organization, right? If you're used to, I don't know, doing big displays of public appreciation or, oh, we're taking care of everybody, and then you can't, and you don't have a reason for it, right? It's got to be something either put on the masses or put on one or two people. but it'll never be put on the organization because the organizations are too big to fall. So it doesn't matter. They usually have backing. They usually have some sort of silent player, some sort of, I don't know, funding agent, some sort of place that will protect that perception of what that organization or person or restaurant, whatever the hell it is. It's when they don't. That's when change hits, and then you see massive change, and things usually get rebuilt. But some things are too big to be torn down, and some things are just too precious to certain stakeholders to have just evaporate at that moment. Do you understand what I'm saying? We need this to be here because I need something from them. And if we change that, I'm not going to get it when we need it. Maybe it's an election, right? Maybe it's a group of people that they want to have to make sure they have in their corner until after a certain date. So they're going to do what they can to go. It's like that with everything. I look at, look at newspapers right now, right? Look at politics, right? The media, right? People usually have a reason for doing what they're doing. And I'll be 100% honest with you. I have my own reasons for doing this as well. I try to be as honest and upfront as possible about things. But at the same time, I don't want to single anybody out because I figure if you think that I'm referring to something in here about you, right? First off, that's a good ego you have. I got more important things to talk about you. But there's also clearly things that maybe you've done in the past that makes you think that that might be referring to you. And if that's the case, that's not my problem because I don't know anything about you, nor for stuff like that. If you subscribe, thank you. If you're, but if you're doing stuff like that, then okay. But a lot of people recognize that themselves. When you give an example, role plays are a prime example. You give an example of a role play. It's okay. Imagine you're in this situation, right? And now go, right? You still got to work your way through that, and you're going to find stuff in there that you recognize because you're going to come up with an example because something's going to pop in your head right away. Just like when I said at the beginning of this, okay, what pops in your head when you think a workplace issue? Is it a conflict with someone else? Is it management doesn't listen? Is it the organization is behind the times? Is it that we're just a number and it's treated that way? There's nothing worse than the perception of it not being that way and then finding out the hard way that it is. Or when you trust people to do the right thing and they don't. That's on us individually, the ones that put that trust in people, because realistically, they're going to look out for themselves, regardless of how close or whatever is there. Doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. See what I'm getting at? Now, I'm not going to go super long. I'm not going to beat this dead horse. But I mean, I think a lot of us have been in situations where we maybe think we weren't treated fairly, or maybe we were treated fairly and we just didn't like how we were treated, or there's numbers or people we trusted, or whatever the case may be, right? We all only have ourselves to blame in the end. But there's some circumstances where I think if you try to do the right thing and it doesn't work, there's lots of reasons for that. John Mellencamp had a song, Life is Hard. Life is tough even in its longest days, right? And one of the lines in that song is, sometimes the best efforts don't always pay. You can do the right thing and lose. History is full of people that have done that, right? And I'm not talking about martyrs. I'm not talking about political prisoners. I'm talking about people that try to institute change. I think of people like Tommy Douglas, right, who, with the CCCF, right, Canada has a certain level of medical care that's provided. Right? Well, all of it, but it's like if you want to get it sooner, you can pay for it, but that's another story, right? What I'm saying is that there's people like that do stuff for the right reasons and get celebrated. There's people that do the right stuff for the right reasons, but because of who it's being done against, get squashed because they need something out of that. No honor among thieves is one of my favorite sayings in the world because there isn't, right? It's like, I don't know, I was going to say it's like the canteen on Tantui in Star Wars, right? Or Raiders of the Lost Ark when Marion's drinking in that thing, they all started fighting at the end, right? you have to do what you got to do for you. But think about the workplace issues. You want to keep dealing with those over and over again because a lot of the workplace issues are the same workplace issues. They just don't get addressed. You get new people in there, and then the same shit happens. So why is that? Why is that okay? I go back to I had an old boss tell me once that it's expected that I work 60 to 70 hours a week while only being paid for like 40. Right? Mando doesn't like that either. And I'm like, why is that? It's almost like you're recognized for your skill level and what you can do for us, that we want you to put in at least 20 hours extra for free because the caseload or because the management load we're going to give you is probably too rough to do in 40 hours. So this is what the expectation is. And then they have burnout, and then people get sick, and then they get upset because people aren't there. Do you not see how that's just one cycle? It's like a snake eating its tail. Now, I'm not sitting here advocating for, I'm not anti-establishment, I'm not anti-anything like that. But what Mando is, but what I am is, I'm pro people here. Because you want your people to succeed. If they don't succeed, and if they're working for you, then that's not only a failure to them, but the organization as a whole, because that means they're not getting better. And you're not enabling them to do that. I understand fiscal restraints. I understand all that kind of stuff. I also understand vacancy management, where people will keep spots open just to recoup lost money. And in places that's busy or that has a high volume of traffic coming through, regardless of what it is. It's like if you're working at a restaurant and the guy who's helping you make burgers. Oh no, guess what? Well, you know what? We're not going to fill his spot. He's going to be gone for 2 months. So now you get to do both these jobs. What happens if we do both those jobs and it's the same quota? Then that's always going to be your job. Because, hey, we don't need that guy anymore. But meanwhile, you now have double the workload because of that. Workplace issues. It's not just this guy stinks or this guy won't shut up or this guy's ignorant. No, it's systematic. And people don't look at it through that lens. It hides in plain sight because some things are too big to fall or fail or to be held to account or to be punished. Food for thought on this chilly Thursday. Thank you for watching for the whole thing. It's a very, very short video today. But put your comments and put your thoughts in the comments. Please share it with your friends. The more people we get viewing this, the more we can highlight a lot of the good work the community in Saskatchewan and Canada's doing, because there's big changes coming, I think, across the board nationally. And it sounds silly to say, but I think it just takes one act of kindness and one act of positivity and one person speaking truth to power is where those changes will come into play and it'll start to resonate. Thank you for watching. Corey, any unemployed counselor. And like I said before, let's just be kind to each other, man. We're all in this together. So let's make sure we all make it out alive, okay? All right. Take care and have a great night.